Today I'm going to show you how I make tiramisu. I will share with you my classical recipe and then I will show you a little twist that I'm doing since recently. I add this extra layer of kind of drunk raspberries, which I make simply by soaking some frozen, I use them frozen, but you can of course use fresh raspberries, which I soak with port wine, which is a sweet Portuguese wine, and it works really great. But it is just an extra layer, so you can either add it or you can remove it, depending on what you feel like. So I'm actually surprised that I'm sharing this recipe with you only now, because tiramisu is one of the favorite desserts at my home. It's actually our tradition since many years that every year for the birthday of my now husband, I make a tiramisu for him. And it's quite convenient because now we have children, and it's not only that he loves this tiramisu because it has so much coffee and the alcohol and it's so amazing, but actually also takes really few time to make. So it's very, very convenient when you have children. And speaking of children, of course, a tiramisu like this, with coffee, with alcohol and quite some of it, it's not suited for children, there is no doubt about that. But the way I went around about this is that at the same time, in the parallel of making this tiramisu, I prepare kind of a mini tiramisu, perfect for children, where there is no eggs, no raw eggs, there is no crazy amount of sugar, there is of course no alcohol and no coffee. And I will show it to you next week. So this week I will just focus on this adult version of a tiramisu, and next week I will show you this very, very quick kind of supplementary, the extra baby tiramisu, which you can do basically using the same ingredients at the same time, so it's very convenient. So I will start by telling you about the equipment that I'm going to use. It's nothing really crazy. So first of all, I will make the tiramisu in this kind of IKEA box. I know that it's not super cute, but I basically serve it like this, so this is not bad. Of course you could find, I'm sure, more beautiful dish than this, but it is extremely practical because a good tiramisu is the best when you leave it overnight in the fridge, or at least for a couple of hours. So this is very easy to cover it, because if you don't cover tiramisu properly, even if you put some film over it, but it's not properly covered, it will really absorb all the smells from your fridge. Even if your fridge doesn't smell like crazy weird, if you have some dill, it will smell like dill, so you don't want that necessarily in your tiramisu. So this is very, very convenient, and later we will sprinkle some cocoa powder or chocolate on it and it will still look beautiful. So I would advise you to use such a container that has a lid for it. This time I'm going to use my hand stand mixer. So I'm not using, usually on this channel you can see that I try to do everything, even like yeast dough, everything by hand, but for this recipe, especially because it's supposed to be this express, very quick recipe, so I will not be trying to be a hero here and take, you know, beat the egg whites by hand. Let's not do that. If you have a stand mixer like this with this kind of whisk, or you can use this hand mixer, but you know, electric one, not necessarily doing by hand, this will also work. So that's what I'm going to use, and then for the last step I also use a spatula just to gently mix all the ingredients. So now to the ingredients. Of course we're going to use eggs, so use fresh eggs. There is this test that you can do with an egg to check if it's fresh or not. You basically put it in a glass of water, and depending if it falls down or if it floats, actually I don't remember which is supposed to do. I think it's supposed to float to be the freshest. If it falls on the bottom of the dish, it's not that fresh. I will check it and I put it on the screen if I was wrong with the explanation. But yeah, I basically have lots of trust in the eggs I'm buying from the stores I'm buying, so I feel safe about that. Another ingredient is mascarpone, and so this dish that I'm going to use is 15 times 21 centimeters. So for that, I don't know how many centimeters deep, I would say more than 5, I should have checked that. I will write that later in the description box so you can check it out. So for this kind of dimension of a dish, I'm using 3 eggs, and for each egg I'm using 100 grams of mascarpone. So this is like 500 grams of mascarpone. I will need 300 of it, but it's quite convenient because then I can use the 200 that are left over for later for my children, but that will come for you next week. And we will need the lady fingers. These are those cookies that are made, and do check on the ingredients, because those days you can find anything really on the list of the ingredients, but what you want in them is just simple flour, sugar and eggs. Sometimes there's some bicarbonate in it, the baking powder, and you don't want anything extra. And if I have several packages to choose between, I'm going for the ones that have the least of sugar. And with my espresso, so I have a machine that makes a nice strong espresso, and additionally to that I will add some bailays, I should have checked how to pronounce this word before.
Bailays.
So I think originally it is this almond liquor that is used, the amaretto, but I am not a big fan of amaretto. I don't like that much the taste of it. So since always we did it with bailays. So it's something that is not very good by itself because it's way too sweet, but if you added just a little bit of it inside the coffee, it is absolutely amazing. Okay, and now for the twist with raspberries. So I will just use simple raspberries, like from a freezer, because both mine and my husband's birthdays are in winter, in late winter, but still it's way before getting all the fresh berries, so we just use the frozen ones. And I will make them drink some port wine. It is really, really delicious. So, to the work. Before we make the cream, there are two things we should start with. If you decide to make a tiramisu with a twist, start by defrosting and soaking the raspberries. You could leave them even overnight in the fridge. To soak them with port wine, I simply pour a few tablespoons of it over the fruits and I leave it for at least 1 hour. Next important step to do in advance is a coffee, which will need to completely cool down before we use it. I made 3 strong espressos, to which I added 3 tablespoons of bailays. Now I set it on the side so it cools down while I prepare the cream. Because I use such a stand mixer and I only have 1 bowl, I will start by beating the egg whites, because it is important that the bowl is super clean without any traces of fat in it. Here I have 3 egg whites and I beat them for around 1 minute until they are white and foamy. At this point I add 1 tablespoon of sugar and I keep beating the eggs until the stage when they are stiff, but the peak falls a bit when tilted. For me this is the most difficult step because it is easy to overbeat the eggs. If you do it for too long, they will lose their nice shine and they will get kind of watery and grainy. So make sure to keep an eye on them. Now I will gently transfer the egg whites into another container and I will reuse the same bowl to whisk the egg yolks. Here, if there is a bit of egg whites left in the bowl, it's not a problem. So I have 3 egg yolks and I add 1.5 tablespoons of sugar. I beat them for a good 2 minutes and then I do a short break to scrape the sides and the bottom of the bowl. Then I continue beating until the sugar is completely dissolved and yolks are much whiter. This is called a ribbon stage. When you lift your whisk, there should be a solid line or a ribbon of the egg mixture that will fall into the bowl and slowly disappear. If you are there, it's time to add the mascarpone. I add it in 3 goes while mixing all the time. I stop as soon as it is all well combined. It should incorporate easily and turn into such a thick, rich cream. Now I remove the bowl from the stand mixer and I will incorporate the egg whites. And it is important to do it by hand to preserve the fluffiness of the eggs. I do it in 3 goes and after each addition I gently fold them in with a silicone spatula. At the end the cream should be airy and not too runny. As soon as it's ready, we should start assembling the tiramisu. This time I decided to try adding some port wine from the raspberries to the coffee mixture, but it turned out to be a bad idea. Probably because the port wine with raspberry juice was too acidic, the espresso with baileys formed curds. So I won't be doing that again. Okay, to assemble the tiramisu, I start by spreading a thin layer of the cream on the bottom of the dish. Next come a layer of ladyfingers, which I soak in coffee. I dip each cookie for around 3 seconds in the espresso mixture and I let it drip a bit before I line it inside the dish. Now comes another layer of the cream. I use half of the cream and I make sure that there is another portion to put on the top. Then I sprinkle it all with a layer of unsweetened cocoa powder, which will add some chocolate notes to our tiramisu. And it is at this moment that I added a layer of raspberries. This time I used 2 cups of frozen raspberries, but you could also add a bit less. I think something between 1 and 2 cups of berries would be a perfect amount. If you're making the classical tiramisu, you can directly skip to the next layer, which again is made of cookies. I soak them in coffee as previously, and I gently press them down. If you want to add some of the leftover port wine with raspberry juice, here is a good moment. So instead of adding it directly into the coffee, rather add 2 or 3 tablespoons of it directly on the cookies. And here comes the top layer of the cream. To finish, I like to sprinkle it all with some grated dark chocolate or with some cocoa powder, as I did this time. And now we need to cover it well and let it rest in the fridge. The best is to leave it there overnight or for at least 6 hours. During this time, the cookies will absorb some liquid and will further soften, and all the flavors will come together. This tiramisu is creamy with strong coffee flavor and not too sweet. And I find that this layer of raspberries beautifully balances this indulgent dessert. I hope this video inspired you to make your own tiramisu, and if you get the chance to try it out, definitely let me know either here in the comments, or you can also write me on my Instagram. And if you'd like to stay up to date with all my newest step-by-step recipes, do subscribe to my channel and click the bell so that you are notified when my newest videos are out. Thank you for watching until the end, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!